Tony and Reggie.
Yes.
From Heroes Unheard Foundation, Reginald Alfonso Green. I don't know what the A stands for, so
just throw it out there.
I just went for Alfonso. I don't even know if that's true or not. I thought I'd come up with it. Man, do we have something super exciting. I've been talking about it on a lot of our podcasts so far.
Yes.
I am super excited to finally have these folks in the house and to maybe talk a little bit more about the collab that we work in. But first, Reggie, check in. It's been a little while. We had Easter, so we had to bump it off a little bit. How was your Easter?
Easter was great. Guess what? I didn't have to worry about jumping into an Easter bunny costume. We got a little bit of, some issues with the daughters and mess like that, but we're good. It's a blessed time frame.
Yeah, we shared a lot of positive feedback from the Easter baskets we were able to get out to the kids. The adult Easter basket raffle went really well. They're pretty pleased with that as well. And so I think with that wrapping up, we're looking into the spring and what's ahead.
Woo!
We have with us Mason Dixon K9. So you want to introduce yourselves a little bit, talk about who you are to the fans, let them know what's going on, the drive that you made up for us.
So my name's Ryan, and my wife Sandy's with us.
Yep, hello.
We are the owners of Mason Dixon K9. We offer training, basic obedience, behavior modification, as well as service dog training. But we also do have boarding, grooming, daycare services as well, both Maryland and Pennsylvania. So we're happy to be here.
So I had a chance to meet with you guys for lunch, and you had a really cool story. So tell us a little bit about you guys personally and kind of what went into starting Mason Dixon.
Sure. So about 17 years ago, Sandy was looking for something to do.
All right.
So she joined a German Shepherd rescue.
Wow.
And of course, she roped me in. So we started fostering. Over the last 17 years, we've had probably 260-ish fosters through the course of 17 years. As my time with the rescue continued, I started working with more of the problem child dogs, behavioral issues. So I started working with them, fostering them, rehabilitating them, getting them into good homes. And then from that point, it kind of started the love of dogs. We have several dogs of our own, German Shepherds, of course. So when COVID hit, I did HVAC work. They pulled me off the road. So I went ahead and got certified as a trainer. From that point, I went ahead and got certified, and within about 30 days, which was supposed to be a side gig for me, in about 30 days, I had quit my job and opened up Mason Dixon K9 to share the knowledge I had built with working with dogs with issues and started training. And then about 90 days later, Sandy followed suit, and this month marks 4 years in business.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Good.
That's really incredible.
So we've helped thousands of owners and their dogs. Both rescues we work with currently, about 9 different rescues who we work with hand in hand with, bringing their dogs that may not necessarily be adoptable at the moment, helping rehabilitate them and get them into adoptable homes as well. So It's very rewarding. I think last year we trained probably 237 dogs last year.
Wow.
Through the course of the organization. So
Now, when you say training, what kind of training are we looking at?
basic obedience, service dogs. We do service dog training for people with PTSD, social anxiety. I suffer from chronic migraines. I actually have a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois who is my migraine detection dog. So she can actually alert me to migraines.
Wow.
And actually, to toot her horn here for a second, but she just passed all her certifications to become a certified therapy dog as well.
Yeah, and I met her when I met with you guys for lunch, and I was like, I saw you guys roll up today. I'm like, no.
Yeah, we didn't bring her today.
Super cool, chill dog.
So
for
she
sure.
is, yeah, she's a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois who was a rescue. We fostered her at 13 weeks of age. I fell in love and failed, and ended up keeping her.
Okay.
But she is my buddy. So she is my buddy for sure. So that's kind of what led us to start Mason Dixon. We still continue with the rescue. We have volunteered with several different rescues, but our heart does lie with the Shepherds. We have 2 of our own personal. So that's where our heart really lies. It's the Shepherds.
That's awesome. And Sandy, when I met with you guys, we're not talking a small rescue, right? You guys said you have a farm. So tell us about how big this thing has really grown. This is incredible when I heard about this.
So it's 53 acres. We have a 1.5-mile farm path around that we're able to get the dogs exercise. We have big play yards for enrichment as well. And it's just kind of a little piece of heaven when you get down there. You know, we have some sheep and some pigs and some birds, chickens and guinea hens. So it's a little sanctuary.
And you have a bunch of staff that works with you as well.
Yeah, we have about 23 staff between our 2 locations. We also have a location in Hanover where we focus on daycare, boarding, and grooming.
True.
So yeah, keeps us pretty busy.
So when you say you have your boarding and grooming, what's the average stay of your animals that you have?
For training or board, like
Just go with training.
training, most of them are 2 weeks when you're talking basic obedience.
Okay.
When you get into more in-depth training where there might be some behavior modification, it's a minimum of 4.
Okay.
There's something magic about week 3 when you start to see behaviors that got them there in the first place, because in the first 2, it's very much on their best behavior, don't quite trust everything, so they don't necessarily show you why they might be there, but generally it starts to develop and they're comfortable enough by that week 3.
That's a great question. That's fantastic. And you guys also, I think, partner with helping train animals that you said behaviorally, but to pair with service dogs.
Correct.
So you partner with Cover 6 and a few other, right?
We
That's
have partnered
correct.
with Covered 6. We work with them a little bit. A lot of what we do is people that reach out, you know, whether it's veterans, whether it's, you know, for example, I trained a 1-year-old lab for a 14-year-old autistic child. The child had never been able to walk this dog, and I got videos 30 minutes after they left, and here this child is walking this dog through Walmart.
Wow.
And as proud as could be. You know, and the goal with that was, you know, the dog was already kind of bonding with the child, but what was happening and what the thought process is, just like a veteran with PTSD, you know, the dog is there to help remove their focus from whatever the trigger may be and put it on the dog, which in turn de-escalates the human. And that's exactly what this dog was doing for this child, was to pull that trigger of social anxiety away from that trigger, put it on the dog, which allowed him to either A, diminish an episode, or B, eliminate it altogether. So it's more of a comfort thing. You know, there's a huge difference between emotional support and an actual service dog. You know, we've done some emotional support dogs, but again, there's different guidelines and rules that come with that.
For sure.
But with the service dog aspect, there's nothing better than being able to help somebody who needs a dog and knowing that you had a hand in, you know, helping that person.
That's really great. Well, that's good, because Reggie's looking for a couple dogs, so if you need anyone to home, just make sure you talk to Reggie.
Keep getting thrown out there.
I mean, hey, look, Reggie, they're going to come already obedience trained. We can help you out with that
There
too.
we
But
go.
here's
There
the
we go.
thing: can you obedience train Reggie?
Well, that's yeah, I just met him, so I can't for sure.
He's got some behaviors we need to break as well. I
It's
mean,
gonna be
I don't know about 2
all that
weeks.
training may
Reggie.
be going down to 2.
I think that's why he was asking what the stay was. He's just trying to
Yeah,
figure
it's
out how long he's gonna. All right. Well, what we've been talking about, Reggie, which was super cool. It's been super big passion of mine from a long time. So as I share my story
Yes.
on the podcast and out and about, right, I have a clinic where I work with vets and first responders and many people, right, but specifically vets and first responders in a clinical sense. And part of the drive to start this foundation, right, was to help the barriers that we see being talked about in clinical settings and finding a way, right, to bring voices to those needs and hopefully bridge those. And one of those that we hear a lot is, right, these highly trained, you know, whether they're service dogs,
Yes.
or vets or our first responders, whether they're retired working dogs, right, so we're talking vet or first responder, law enforcement, those types of animals that are there in retirement, but they still have that training, right? Or it could be any run-of-the-mill pet that they find as an emotional support, or any dog, right, run-of-the-mill dog that these individuals may have. And for those vets that don't have a family and they don't have a support, right, it can be a real barrier for them to access treatment, whether that's mental health treatment, physical treatment, rehab, whatever it may be, because they care sometimes, a lot of times, probably more about their pets and their animals
Yes.
than they do themselves. And so we've seen so many times that they're willing to put their own health to the side to make sure their animal's taken care of. And so that's why I had a chance to reach out to these incredible folks and continue to work. And we're super close to finalizing a project that is near and dear to my heart, and that is an emergency boarding program, right, for first responders and vets who need to access care, and the barrier is not having proper, not just supports, right? We're not talking, nothing against Humane Society or some of the kennels. They're phenomenal ones out there. I've taken my own animal too, not talking badly. But as you said, right, these animals are special, right? They have special needs. They, one of the things that was incredible that you brought to my attention when we were talking, and it completely makes sense, is we look at the human beings as they're separated from their animal, but when they're working or service dogs are separated from their human,
they go through anxiety.
They go through anxiety, depression, and they lose a lack of purpose because they're no longer having to perform the task that they feel so connected to their owner for. And so having that ability and that knowledge at your facility to continue to work those dogs, continue to understand those dogs, is incredible. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because when you told me that it hit really home.
Yeah, you have, in your service dogs aspect, they're a task that they have to perform for their owners, right? There's a job. That's why they call them working dogs, and to throw one out there, if you see a service dog out in public, don't try to approach it or touch it. They could look gorgeous and pretty, but please do not touch it. They are working.
Yes.
And that's a big thing that happens even with my own personal service dog. We take her out and people are like, oh, pretty dog, let me pet her. And they go over to pet her. That's the dog is working. They have a specific task that they perform for a person. And you have different ones. You could have a medical, right, where it's alerting on a medical disease. And keep in mind, as medical are not always visible. I suffer from migraines. To look at me, you never know. Low blood sugar, heart rate, diabetes, whatever the case may be, there are certain things with that owner that dog picks up on, and that's a job that they're performing.
Yes.
So you got to let them do their job, but you're 100% correct, and they're working. They need that stimulation. They are obviously going through some emotions as well, as their human is no longer there. Because let's be honest, a lot of times that's all they have is that person. And it's crucial that you understand and have that knowledge to know what the dog may go through. So you learn to combat it, and you can work with the dog to bridge that gap of that separation and making sure that the dog's well cared for and feels comfortable while they're staying somewhere. We got reached out to on Facebook, obviously, for a gentleman who was down at the VA down in Baltimore City. Unfortunately, he needed to be admitted. Unfortunately, they would not admit him because he had a service dog with him, who was a shepherd. Obviously, knowing the people that know us, Sandy and myself, they reached out to us. The first thing we did at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night was jump in the car. We drove to Baltimore City and picked up this total stranger's dog and kept her for like 10 days.
It was like
2.5 weeks while he got the treatment that he needed. And to your point, a lot of people with service dogs, especially veterans and first responders, they will not eat just to take care of their dog because that's their world. So we ended up keeping the dog at our house, during that period. Absolute sweetheart of the dog. We made sure she got the physical stimulation of the walks and the human affection that she was so graciously missing. Once he got himself on his feet and got out of the hospital, we took him back, and the tears that flowed out of his eyes because he was able to focus in on himself, getting himself better. He knew his dog was well taken care of. We stayed in contact with him because down there he was able to have a phone. So we were able to send him pictures and videos and things to keep his spirits up. We looked at it from that standpoint of staying in constant contact with him. It gave him that drive to get over the hump that he was faced with. So it gave him that little extra drive, to that desire to want to go do things to be able to get reunited with his dog.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that was another really incredible thing. Sometimes things are meant to be, signs are sent your way, and so when we made this connection, here you guys already have dipped your toe in like doing this type of thing completely out of your pocket, completely right, just out of the kindness of your hearts. You opened up your rescue and your facilities and your training and expertise, right, to help, and taking that vision and making that a little bit more mainstream is something that's super great. And so many great points, right? Like, again, these vets, first responders will put themselves out in order to take care of their animals. Correct me, make sure you're right. Like when they're at task, right? The dog that gives the dog purpose, right? These
Correct.
dogs find I don't, you know, maybe joy, I don't know, joy, purpose, right, meaning to perform that task for their owner. So it's not necessarily like robotic, like this is their task. Like they gain a sense of purpose and a sense of achievement, and
it's you have those dogs that are what in the dog industry or dog world is considered a working line dog.
Yeah,
they need a job, right? 90% of think about people, right? If you go through life, you as a person, you need a purpose in life. That's the same feeling a dog gets, right? My 2-year-old Belgian Malinois, she needs a job. She needs a purpose. She knows that when she's with me and she has that vest on, to her, nothing else in life matters. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter what somebody else is doing. That's her job. That's her purpose. Does she have the chance to be a dog and have some fun and do dog things? Of course, right? Because she's not always working in a physical format, right? She can still be a dog, and let's say we're just lounging on the couch and I have the trigger of a migraine coming. She'll still alert me even though she doesn't have her service vest on, but it gives her purpose just like it gives the humans purpose. You know, in that task-based training, and one of the big things that I see, and I get tagged a lot on Facebook and all the different Facebook groups, and you know, one of the big things that always gets me wound up is having a service dog and somebody not physically seeing what the problem is, right? And they catch a bad rap that, oh, the dog doesn't belong at this restaurant because you're not disabled or you don't need that dog. Oh, you're with the human, so the human can do it, right? That always drives me nuts because not everything is seen visually. You know, you have a medical condition that the dog's smell is about 10,000 times better than a human. There's things that they can pick up on that to the naked eye, to a human, you won't pick up until the person's on the floor.
right.
And at that point, are you too late?
Yeah, it's truly incredible, and I appreciate you know wanting to take a few moments today as we're kind of getting ready to lead into you know the announcement to really highlight that it is a true relationship, right? It is symbiotic between both the owner,
Of course.
handler, right, the service dog, the working dog. It is a relationship, and so when we look at right supporting vets and first responders, we have to be sensitive to that relationship.
100%.
And again, whether it's not getting the treatment and refusing, you know, I see, you know, possibly de-escalating, you know, crisis level situations where, you know, they're becoming adamant that they will not go because of that animal, and then right, we're escalating those types of interactions that we don't need that could have otherwise maybe been a little safer for both. Right, law enforcement, crisis, or the individual, and you know when they're there, right? If they're even concerned at any degree, they might be at these facilities, but they're not focusing on their treatment. They're not focusing, right? So here's an opportunity for us again, as a community, to help them by taking that load off for a brief period of time. So everything that they've done for our country and our community, they have a moment to focus and get what they need. Correct. So they can come back. And so this project was really near and dear, and so you know we've talked about and certainly we have to highlight and really you know announce more of the particulars, but a project in which we're collaborating between the foundation and yourselves to provide that opportunity and provide that much needed help for first responders and vets. And so if there's first responders and vets out there that if you're listening or you know somebody that's in need, and this is a core barrier for them being willing to go get the help, not that they just need, but they deserve for what they've done for us. You know, we're really excited very shortly to launch a program that will help take that barrier or minimize that barrier. And so I am eternally grateful for what you and Sandy, what you guys are doing to provide that. Again, to open up your hearts, to open up your experiences, your farm, your staff, to make that possible. So that, again, those folks can, not just the folks, but the dogs, the animals, right? We want to make sure that they're taken care of too. And that's what we can do for the folks that do what they do for us. So, Reggie, any questions you have for these folks? I got to hear a whole bunch about their story. I got to meet this pup, I mean, I'm telling you, so well behaved, just chillaxing, chill, was working. But listen, when I work, I don't look that chill, right? I wish my job was as chill as what that was.
I don't think it's so much, you say it's chill. The way I view it is this: when you have those animals, they become, we see it as a family.
Yes.
They become an extension of your family.
100%.
And when it comes to the animal, you become a part of their pack.
100%.
So that part where we're sitting there saying they're working animals, no, you are now an extension of their pack.
Correct.
So they're doing everything they would normally do.
Yep.
And that's the way I view it.
100%.
If you're sitting there, you're having you got a trigger that's coming up, okay, my job is to ensure this pack is safe, and they're going to do what they need to do. And that's one of the barriers that I see out there when it comes to individuals. And y'all talked on it where I can't get the help because who's going to look after my animal? I have to take care of this. That is their sense of responsibility. And when you take that away from them, you're taking away their sense of being.
Correct.
That last sense of
Yep.
being right there. And that's not what you want. So if we have these individuals that are such as yourselves, and give me the name again, let's hear from you.
Sandy.
Okay, I know, not your
Oh.
person. The name of your foundation.
Oh, Mason Dixon K9.
So the Mason Dixon K9, when they're sitting there and they say, okay, guess what? We're going to take this off, that burden off of you. They need to know that. And people have that stigmatism.
And they want to be confident in the fact that they're going to be cared for.
Yes.
You know, because
There are so many horror stories that I
who
hear.
just wants to hand their dog over to just anybody?
Correct.
I mean, I call myself a helicopter mom.
That's good. That's what they want.
So, yeah.
That personal care, that personal touch right there is what they're looking for.
I think
when it
it's the
comes to
personal
Our
touch. but
motto is we
go-
treat them like family when they're with us.
Yes.
They are our family.
We treat them
care
as
for
if we would ours.
There
If
we go.
we wouldn't do it to ours, we will not do it to somebody else's. And that's our big motto. We've lived by that for the last 4 years and will not deviate from that.
Yeah, that's really incredible, and I think it's also not, make sure they're cared for, but right, again, some of these dogs are providing a very critical service,
Yes.
and so when those individuals are getting treatment for a period of time, that could be days, a couple weeks, depending on the treatment, when they are repaired with that animal needs to continue to be able to provide that service,
Mhm.
right? And so the last thing we'd also want to do is have a vet or first responder that's paired with a service dog or a dog that's providing some kind of critical service, and have their fear that while they're gone, that service that dog or that animal is able to provide them loosens or softens or for somehow, right? And we're not certainly tasking you, but again, these folks having that understanding what the dog does to continue to some degree, right? You can't have them alert if you don't have the medical condition.
Correct.
Mhm.
However, right, still making sure that the animal's cared for, but also is kind of going through what they need to go so that when that vet or first responder comes back, right, that dog can continue to successfully re-engage in that,
Yep.
hopefully healthier individual,
Correct.
but provide the same service. So that's such another critical thing too, is we want to make sure that the investment in them continues along. So what do we have to do, Reggie? So here's our call of action today. I've got a couple of different things, okay?
Okay.
First and foremost, this is on us. These great folks got us some information. We got to tighten up some of the details of how folks can access this. Some of the parameters around. Obviously, we'd want to help everybody, but especially if this is a transportation issue, I mean, we'll put them in your Volvo. You can go pick them up. I'll call it in the middle.
I would have no issues with that whatsoever. That's the part of the things that we sit there and do.
100%.
If I have to go and say, okay, let's say we have multiples. I'll go rent a vehicle and be like, okay, let's get these things done.
100%, right? So that's something that we want to be able to
Yes.
provide. They've offered to provide as they're able, depending, right, on just trying to make it, depending on how that scope is, it may become case by case. But we got to figure all those details out so we can pump this out to the public here probably in the next, hopeful week, so we can launch this in May. So that's something we got to do to make sure that we have an access point, who they contact, some education. But this is what we may even need some volunteers one day to
Yes.
go pick an animal up, right? So it takes a village. We've been saying that from the start. But here's what I need. We've been going back and forth on some naming for this fund, right? We're going to create a separate fund, a medical fund. This was a beautiful idea that Sandy had, and I think it was great, right? To set up a fund that for folks that want to continue to support vets, and first responders. We have the general way of donating to the foundation, but if this is a specific near and dear thing to you, we want to make sure that we can earmark any donations, whether that's food, whether that's supplies, whether that's monetary, that it 100% goes directly to this project,
Yes.
directly to the animals and what we're doing in this partnership in this room. But we don't have a name for it, man. I had some really cool
He
names.
was kicking some names around.
I did, and everybody
look.
has them. I Google searched it; they're everywhere. So I'm struggling. So You didn't like mine, and
It's not that I didn't
it was Plan
like
D.
it.
I didn't like yours at all. It was horrible.
Okay, look, okay, you can say that.
So here's what we decided. So Reggie and I had this decision. We're gonna throw it out to our followers. So let's just do a fun little contest and see what folks want to come up with this project. Right? We're helping heroes. We're helping first responders. We're helping vets.
Yes.
We're pairing them with some other heroes. Dare I say, hero hounds? Can't say that. That's been
No.
That's been copyrighted all over Google. So please don't sue me. That was my first name, but it's used in every fashion of the words. I'm disappointed. Some people, I said hairy heroes. They don't like it. So we got to just change this up. I'm not persuading anybody or pushing anybody one way. Let's just throw it out there. So throw it in the comment section of this, podcast as it gets out on our podcast page. A name for the fund that we can set up for these animals, and the winner, the four of us here, we'll all vote. We'll pick a cool one that we can call the fund to set up, or the project with the collab that we're doing. And we have some swag I'll put up on the Facebook page after we get off the podcast today, of our stickers, our patches that we just came in, which are pretty cool, a podcast keychain, all the cool stuff. We'll send that out to the winner of the name that collectively the four of us pick. For a kind of catchy phrase for this fund, because we just can't figure it out.
And the great part about this is, whoever that name, the naming convention is out there, you just became a part of history.
Oh, history.
Absolutely.
Yes, because you have just come up on the forefront, of laying the foundation out there, saying that's the name I came up with. Now you got something you can sit there and, hey kids, I came up with that name. You want to be able to have something that you can leave behind. We like that legacy. And that's why we started this. That legacy of saying, hey, what can I leave behind that my kids can sit there and look at in the distant future to say, my relative was a part of that.
You know, it's funny you say that, because one of my big saying is, there's one thing you can leave this world with, and that's your name.
That's it.
That's it. That's
Bottom
all you can
line.
leave with.
I tell people all the time,
Hey.
leave something out that your children and your grandkids can look back on and say, we had a hand in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Mason-Dixon Canine, the name came because we literally, our property line is the Mason-Dixon line. That's how we came up with Mason-Dixon.
That's what I was sitting there asking Tony about. I was like,
Yeah,
Dixon.
So let's give them props. I mean, they drove up here today, right?
Yes.
But I mean, between them and us, we got a lot of room. We got a lot of area to cover, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
we can make it happen. They can help us down there. We're up here. Like, we really want to make this project super accessible. So again, if there's any needs, even if it's displacement, right? And so if there's a temporary displacement, and you don't have, again, you need to go to a shelter, you need to stay with a family member while you're getting your feet. Again, we got to talk parameters around what that looks like. There's some details that have to be kind of formulated or formalized, but in any way, right? This is to help first responders and vets find them some footing, even if that's, again, emergency temporary boarding while they get their footing. So all this is great, but again, Reggie, what I think is really great is this isn't just us, right? This is all about the community. So even inviting them in for the naming convention, this is just all about bringing all the people to contribute in every way. So like you said, if you can't contribute financially, if you can't contribute with time, right? If you can't, you don't know anything about animals or dogs, and maybe you don't even like them. I don't know. I don't know why you couldn't. Mine's amazing, but what's yours is Delta. You missed out, Reggie. You missed out.
Hey, guess what?
Next time we get together, Ray, I'll bring her up for you.
I appreciate it.
I'll bring her
I
up for
appreciate
you.
it. 'Cause I'm
Well,
tired
they
of
also
hearing
said, listen,
their
when we
stories.
get this up and running, they invited us out to the farm.
Come out
I
to
wanna
the
go play
farm.
with some pigs. I want to play with some sheep, right? I want to see these 53 acres. I might get lost, but I definitely.
I got $10 on you sheep riding. I got $10 that
Challenge
says you
accepted.
can jump on that sheep and ride it.
Challenge accepted. Reggie, at least it's not you. Reggie, at least it's not you. But listen, when we go to the farm, you're wearing the bunny suit. So
I have one of those. I have one.
Let's not just keep feeding this man. No.
maybe even a pig suit. I really want to see you in with
Look.
the pigs.
Here's the thing. That's what most people forget about that part right there. As we as first responders, veterans, the sheer fact of being one with nature once again. So when they have those animals and stuff out there, they get a chance to see that. That's just amazing for me.
Yeah.
At least for me, it is.
I'm excited to go check it out for
Yes.
sure, and you're gonna get to see Delta and all the cool. I didn't get to see all the other stuff, but Just remember, Delta was my friend first. So what I'm saying is, we're gonna kick this out to the public. we're gonna kick this out to the public. So if you're watching our feedback or our podcast today, checking out our feed, we'll send some reminders over the next couple of days. Love to tighten this up. Hopefully by end of week, so we can launch something pretty quickly. As the weather's getting nicer and whatnot.
Yes.
I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about, but as it's getting nicer, right? And if there's anyone out there that this is significantly beneficial to, we want to make sure it's accessible as quickly as possible. So we'll get it all set up. We'll likely create another, post or another link directly for this fund. I'm envisioning, Sandy had a lot of great ideas of some various different agencies and organizations we can hit up once this is solidified to see, if they would, donate. Obviously, we can, do an event coming up as well that we can pull it in. I have a couple events that I was looking to do that I think could specifically benefit this fund. So a lot of great stuff happening in the second half of the year, but this was really important. So Ryan and Sandy, I think, I have to say thank you. This was, Reggie's sick of me talking about this project because, not sick of it in that way, but
it's been months.
It's so important for me to do, and it makes me really happy and really honored to have you guys be able to make that happen together as a partnership.
We're honored that you thought of us and reached out to us, and on the behalf of myself and Sandy, we thank all the vets and first responders for what they do. We couldn't be where we are today without them, so we thank them immensely. And this is just our way to give back to the people who've given a lot for us. It's just the simplest thing that we can do.
Yes.
To give back.
Well, I appreciate you guys making the trip and spending a little bit of time telling us about your personal stories, how your facilities, of course. I'm not sure if you have a Facebook or a website. I'm sure, again, outside of just our project that we're doing, all the great work you're doing, I'm not sure if you collect donations or need any help. So if you have any of that information, you're more than happy to share it now so people know how to get
We look at it as, with us, donate to a rescue for a dog in need.
That's fantastic.
For us, that's what we do. We do partner with a lot of rescues. They are on our website, which is in the process of being rebuilt, but we're close to relaunching.
Nice.
All right.
But you will see all the different organizations that we work with. But for us, it's donate to a rescue for a dog in need.
That's fantastic.
That's what our thought process
Paying it
is.
forward. That's what it's all about. All right, folks, keep following us on all of our socials. So we have Heroes Unheard Foundation. You can check out that Facebook page. We have a lot of information on upcoming events as well as some of the donation links. Once that gets posted, we'll launch or announce the specifics and the formal details about this project on our, both. But to make sure, if you're a follower of the podcast, Facebook, you're over at our foundation as well. Like and share this, guys. Get as many people in your friend group, vets, first responders, or anybody that supports them. Get them liking our Facebook pages. So that's Heroes Unheard Foundation. We also have Heroes Unheard Podcast. Make sure that you're commenting in the comment section about those cool names. Get your kids involved. It can be anything. We don't really know. It's going to be
Somebody has a name out there.
someone, but it doesn't have to be. I think I overthought. I was telling you, I think I'm overthinking it. My brain was hurting. I was trying to make it too catchy, too things rhyming with H's, and I'm like, my brain's going to explode, Reggie. I can't do this anymore. He was looking at me. He said, "Dude, are you okay?" I'm like, "No, man, I can't do this anymore. My head's going to explode." So it could be funny, it could be goofy, it could be cute. So please get your kids involved, get your friends involved. Put that in the comment. We'll announce that in a few days, probably about midweek. So let's put maybe about a Wednesday date on that. So make sure you're doing that as well. Reggie, do you have anything else for us?
I just got a quick question for Sam. I need to hear one of your memorable stories of a reunion. Something that said this is what made it worthwhile for me.
Yeah, Sandy, I want to hear this story.
Oh!
I would say, are you talking partnering with Heroes or just?
Oh, we know that's a memorable situation right there by itself. However, within your own personal realm, down at Mason-Dixon.
I have one, but
I would say one of the most memorable reunions we had is when we worked a lost dog
Okay.
for 3 weeks.
Now when you say lost, what do you mean?
She got loose from her house,
Okay.
and I was watching the post on Facebook for days, and Ryan is very good at tracking and trapping lost dogs.
Okay.
So I reached out to them, got their number, Ryan called, and they literally were like, okay, what's the catch? Who's the stranger? But they were also desperate to get the dog back. So weeks went by, putting flyers up, setting a place to put a trap to catch this dog.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really smart. So we had staged up to have her come, and if the weather was off, if the wind was off, she wouldn't come. So we were set up. We caught her in the trap, and she at that point was a funnel because she wasn't getting enough food. And when Ryan called, her mother and father, you could hear them screeching coming down the road. And when he put that little Mia in that mom's arms, it was incredible. Incredible.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I have one, but it's not the same dog, but it's another dog we lost.
Okay.
What's yours?
So we had a dog who subsequently had gotten loose in Pennsylvania. We caught her. They brought her into the shepherd rescue that we volunteer with. And the funny thing about her is while she was out the first time, she had gotten pregnant and had 2 pups, which are now with Sandy's mother. Dog's name was Annie. She got brought into the rescue. She got adopted. Well, got loose from the adopter. She spent 6 months on the street. The night we had contacted somebody that I had known who was also very, very good at trapping dogs. There was 28 people down there that night. We had actually fenced in around 2 apartment buildings. We had about a 3-minute window to catch her because after 3 minutes she was gone. She came in to eat. The radio call was given. This was at about 3:30 in the morning. We all jumped in. We ended up catching her. When I called that owner, the adopter, and told her we had her dog, the tears on the phone just started. We loaded the dog up with the trap into a vehicle, took her back home, and the adopter literally collapsed because she couldn't believe it. Got home, just fallen asleep for about 2 hours. The phone rang. She was afraid to get her out of the trap. So I get back up, drove back down an hour, took her out of the trap. She ended up being a phenomenal dog. But I realized I was up for about 36 hours straight that day. But it is a feeling that you'll never forget. You know, being able to reunite somebody with their pet who's been missing is a feeling you'll never forget.
Yes.
And it's, just that alone, is it stressful? 100%. Is there lack of sleep? 100%. But those 2 are probably the 2 that really stick out in my mind. Just the gratitude that somebody has because here are total strangers reaching out and saying, let me help.
Wow.
And there's no catch.
Yeah.
Let me help.
And that's that tribal mentality we got to get back to. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it's sad when people automatically assume there's a catch, and it makes me sad that we have gotten that far away from it because there are good people.
Yes.
And I feel like when somebody says, oh, well, you did this, what do you want? Make a donation to the rescue, pay it forward, help somebody out, offer if you see somebody's dog's lost, go help them put flyers up. Or, the situation when we took the veteran's dog in, that was incredibly emotional. I mean, I couldn't keep the tears from flowing. Not only when we picked her up and he handed that leash over, as he was in a hospital gown and clearly having some tremors. It was very emotional.
IV bag in tow from a nurse.
Literally, nurse attached to him because he wasn't allowed to just leave. And then the 2.5 weeks later when we drove down to return the dog to him was incredibly emotional.
And it's, and one of the big questions and something that I don't know if anybody's really kind of thought about, or one of the big questions is why can't these dogs be with their owners while they're in getting treatment.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it boils down to safety
Yes.
of not only the human but the dog, right? And it's, you know, there could be some protection kicking in, possibly.
Yep.
You know, or it a lot of it I think is going to be confusion with the dog as to what are all these people doing to my dad or to my mom.
Yes.
Right? What are they doing to them?
That's
right?
that pack mentality would kick in.
It's the pack mentality, and not to mention it's, you know, looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, as if their owner's in the hospital, they can't get up and go walk the dog,
Right.
to go to the bathroom. They can't get up to go feed the dog,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, you know, and that's one of the big things is a lot of comments when we helped this veteran out was, well, it's his dog. Why can't he stay? You know, why can't she be there?
It was not the wrong decision because he really did struggle, and there was days, you know, where they have to do some more intense medical treatment,
Mhm.
and you certainly don't want to set that dog up for a bite because he feels like the dog feels like it needs to protect the owner.
Yes.
Because, you know, depending on the level of treatment and what it is, there can be some pretty gnarly side effects for the human that they're going through, and that type of situation is just not set up for a dog. The owner needs to focus on the treatment and what they're going through medically, and not if the dog has to be walked or did it eat. You know,
Right.
and in a hospital situation like that, it's just not set up for that.
Yeah, I think you highlighted right. Like, obviously, it's a safe, it's supposed to be clean environment. I'm not saying the animals are, you know, but you know, we know that, and I appreciate again the confusion, the service. But again, I think that just highlighting that this is a chance for us as a community
Yep.
to help, so that the
100%.
veteran or the first responder or the person can focus on themselves and the need that they want, because they are bred and conditioned in their service to always be thinking of other people, and it's a tremendous barrier. And so while maybe there are some scenarios where it could be doable, again, you know, outside of just making sure that, you know, just everything that's going on with medical equipment and treatment facilities and other people, and depending on what, you know, what's going on, right, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that they can feel comfortable focusing on themselves, so they can come back and better provide for their animal, right?
Yes.
Be a better person for their animal as well. So pretty incredible stuff. So a couple things to wrap up, Reggie, because we're getting ready to hit time here. And first of all, you know, the website's rebuilding, so we're going to make sure that we pump that out when you guys are ready to go. We'll get that out on our Facebook pages. Do you guys have a Facebook page for
We
any of
do.
you? And is it Mason-Dixon Canine Pet Resort?
That's one of them.
Okay.
Our other one is Mason-Dixon Canine. Is the other one?
Just outright. Okay, so Reggie,
Letter
we're going
K,
to...
number 9.
Yeah, so let's close up some things. The producer, I mean, he's on top of it.
He is. He's probably
got
writing it down right
he's
now.
slipping notes over to me.
got it.
Notes,
He's on it.
Cue cards. I mean, he is incredible, right?
He told me my hair looked good. I mean, he was on it.
Like mine.
A big shout out to the Voice
Yes.
17104
Appreciate you
studio
guys,
and the
man.
producer
Appreciate you
here, always hooking us up. So we'll do some final comments, and then on the music out, we'll he's got some cool pictures primed up
Oh, wow.
from their Facebook Facebook pages as we close out today, so that folks can stick around and see a little bit about that. But again, just a reminder, follow us on our socials, Heroes Unheard Podcast, Heroes Unheard Foundation. If you want to be a guest, if you're a vet or a first responder and you want to come share your story, or have your family come with you to share your story, if you're an organization that supports vets or first responders, reach out to us either at podcast@heroesunheard.org or directly at the foundation at heroesunheard.org. We'd love to hear your stories. We'd love to, again, whether it's a success story related to something that these folks or, you know, you've done with other folks through your service animals and the needs that, you know, to further support that, or any topic. If you're a viewer and you maybe not feel comfortable being a guest, but you have a question or you have a topic that you'd like us to track down and bring in as a guest to talk about, please reach out to us through our Facebook pages, DM, email, see us out and about, and we'll get that information. So any final words for you, Reggie, before we send this to the producer?
No, thank you all for coming here and
Thank you
sharing
for
your
having us.
stories and your time.
Yes, thank you immensely for having us.
Yeah,
We look
awesome.
forward to working with you guys and partnering.
Awesome for what you guys do. So follow us on Facebook, comment on those project names. We'll pick a winner, get you some swag, and make sure you continue to follow us with some more exciting announcements about this project and other events coming up. So from the Voice 17104 studio, Reggie and Tony out. Reg, did you see this?
And how many acres are we looking at?
That's 5.
the resort.
That's
Okay.
that's our resort.
Okay.
So this is where we do the daycare, the boarding and grooming.
Awesome.
And this is 5 acres here. This is the farm.
Yeah. Which is the 53.
Okay.
That's the farm lot.